The words hit Eleanor's heart like a punch to the chest. She had just stepped out of her black SUV, ready to rush into her corporate retreat meeting, when she noticed the small figure tugging at her coat. A little girl, no older than 6, her cheeks streaked with tears and her backpack slipping off one shoulder. Eleanor knelt down slowly, her heart tightening in a way she hadn't felt in years. "What do you mean you can't find him?" she asked gently. The girl swallowed hard. "Daddy went into the woods to get my lost ribbon, and he didn't come back." Wind rustled through the tall pines at the edge of the resort property. The forest looked darker than the sky, stretching endlessly into the shadows. Eleanor glanced back toward the glass building where her board waited. She was the CEO of a billion-dollar tech firm, a woman who never missed meetings, never broke pace. But one look at the girl's shaking hands made her decision for her. "Show me where you last saw him," Eleanor said, taking the girl's hand. The girl's fingers were freezing. "What's your name?" Eleanor asked as they walked. "Hope," she whispered. A fitting name, Eleanor thought, though right now the child looked like she had none left. They reached the narrow entrance to the woods, the leaves crunching under their feet. Hope pointed toward a dim trail. "Daddy went that way. He said he'd be right back." Eleanor took a deep breath. She didn't do woods. She didn't do mud. She didn't do the unpredictable. But she did do responsibility. "Hope, stay close to me," she instructed, stepping onto the trail. As they moved deeper, the air grew colder. Birds stopped chirping. Branches hung low, scraping their shoulders. Hope stumbled once, and Eleanor caught her by the arm. Though her tailored coat snagged on a branch and tore, she barely reacted. After several minutes, Hope tugged her sleeve again. "Ma'am, what if something happened to him?" Eleanor forced her voice to stay steady. "We're going to find him. I promise." But inside, doubt gnawed at her. What man would wander this far for a ribbon? Something wasn't right. A sudden rustling came from up ahead. Eleanor froze, instinctively pulling Hope behind her. Her mind raced: animal, person, danger, Daddy. Hope called out, voice cracking. Silence. Then, faintly, a groan. They followed the sound and found a man collapsed near a fallen tree, his leg pinned under a thick branch. His face was pale, sweat mixing with dirt. His breathing was shallow. Hope screamed, "Daddy," and ran to him. The man struggled to lift his head. "Hope, sweetheart. I'm okay." No, he wasn't. Eleanor rushed forward, assessing the situation. She had no medical training the way her father once hoped she'd have before she took the business route, but she knew one thing: the branch trapping him was too heavy to move alone. "Sir, I'm Eleanor. I'm here to help," she said firmly. He nodded weakly. "I slipped, tried to get her ribbon, didn't want her to cry." Hope clutched his hand with both of hers. "Daddy, please don't leave me." Eleanor's throat tightened. She searched her coat pockets, but her phone wasn't there. She must have dropped it when they rushed into the woods. "Can you walk if we lift this?" she asked him. He shook his head. "My leg." I heard something crack. Hope looked up at Eleanor, tears streaming again. "Ma'am, don't let my daddy die." Eleanor exhaled shakily. "I won't." It was the first time she had promised someone something that had nothing to do with deals, investors, or contracts. And yet it felt like the most important promise of her life. She found a strong branch and used it as leverage. Muscles she'd forgotten she had strained painfully. Her shoes sank into soft earth. Her coat gathered mud. Sweat trickled down her back. But Eleanor didn't stop. Finally, with a loud snap, the fallen branch shifted enough for the man to pull his leg free with Hope's help. He cried out in pain but managed to sit up. "You're safe now," Eleanor said breathlessly. "Lean on me." Hope helped lift her father's arm over Eleanor's shoulder. Step by step, they made their way back, Hope guiding them around roots and rocks. Eleanor's legs burned, but she kept moving. When they reached the forest's edge, resort staff spotted them and ran over. Within minutes, an ambulance arrived. Paramedics took the man inside and stabilized his leg. Hope hugged Eleanor around the waist. "Ma'am, you saved my daddy." Eleanor looked down at her, eyes softening. Hope, you did the bravest thing tonight. You asked for help. That saved him. The man, now lying on the stretcher, called out, "Ma'am, thank you. I don't know how to repay you." Eleanor hesitated, glancing at the meeting building she had abandoned. For once, she didn't regret it. "You already have," she replied. "You reminded me what really matters." Hope ran back to her and slipped a small pink ribbon into Eleanor's hand. "This was the ribbon Daddy went to find. I want you to have it." Eleanor felt an unexpected lump in her throat as she looked at the simple ribbon. Something so small had led to something so profound. The ambulance doors closed, and Hope waved at Eleanor until the vehicle drove out of sight. As the woods quieted and the evening settled, Eleanor looked at the ribbon again. For years she had chased success, numbers, and perfection. But tonight, she realized something she had forgotten long ago. In the end, the greatest victories are the ones that save lives, not companies. Eleanor walked back toward the resort, her torn coat hanging loosely, her heels muddy, her heart changed. She tucked the ribbon into her pocket, a reminder of courage, love, and the little girl who taught a powerful CEO the value of compassion. And she knew this was not the end of the story, but the beginning of something far more meaningful. Eleanor couldn't sleep that night. Even though she returned to the resort and forced herself through the rest of the meeting, her mind drifted again and again to the woods, to Hope's trembling hand in hers, to the exhausted sigh of the father whose life she had helped save. Her assistant, Carla, had pulled her aside after the meeting. "Ma'am, you look shaken. Are you okay?" Eleanor simply said, "I'm fine," but even she could hear how unconvincing she sounded. Later, in her hotel room, she sat on the edge of the bed holding the little pink ribbon. Such a small thing, yet it carried weight, the weight of a child's faith, a father's sacrifice, and a truth she had avoided for years. She had everything money could buy, yet somehow she felt empty. And that emptiness echoed louder tonight than ever before. The next morning, Eleanor canceled her remaining meetings, something she had never done in her entire career. Carla nearly fainted when she heard. "Ma'am, cancel." "Are you sure?" "Yes," Eleanor responded. "There's someone I need to check on." The hospital was a modest one in town, the kind Eleanor had never been inside before. She asked the receptionist for Hope's father. When she entered the room, Hope gasped with delight. "Ma'am, you came back." Eleanor smiled, genuinely. "I wanted to see how your daddy is doing." The father, whose name was Daniel, looked surprised. You didn't have to come all this way." Eleanor stepped closer. "I wanted to." Daniel's leg was in a cast, suspended slightly. His face still looked pale, but the gratitude in his eyes was unmistakable. Hope climbed onto his bed, hugging his arm tightly. "Daddy," Ma'am helped again. Daniel chuckled softly. "Yes, sweetheart. I know." Eleanor pulled a chair and sat beside them. "The doctor said you'll need time to recover." Daniel nodded. "A few weeks at least. I work 2 jobs. I'm not sure what's going to happen now." Hope's smile faded. "Will we have to leave again, Daddy?" Eleanor felt something shift inside her. A sinking realization hit her, this wasn't just a single bad night for them. This was their life. Struggle, instability, moving from place to place, surviving on whatever they could manage. She took a deep breath. "Daniel, what do you do?" "I fix things," he replied. "Electrical work. Small repairs. Anything that keeps us going." "Are you good at it?" she asked. Hope immediately answered for him, pride shining on her face. "He's the best. He even built me a night light out of soda cans and old wires." Daniel laughed shyly. "It's nothing fancy." But Eleanor's mind was already turning. Her company had been struggling with a major facilities issue for months, electrical shortages, old systems, malfunctioning panels. None of their contractors had solved the problem. A man who would enter dark woods at night to retrieve a ribbon for his little girl, that was a man who cared. A man who didn't quit until something important was fixed. Eleanor saw potential in him, not because of pity, but because she recognized strength. "Daniel," she said softly, "how would you feel about helping me with a project?" He blinked in confusion. Me. Work with you. She nodded. I might have a job for you. Something stable. Fair pay. Full benefits. Hope's eyes widened. Daddy. A job. Daniel stared at Eleanor like she was speaking a different language. Ma'am, you don't even know me. I can't accept charity. This isn't charity, she said firmly. It's an opportunity. For someone who deserves it. Hope grabbed Eleanor's hand without hesitation. She's like an angel, Daddy. Eleanor felt warmth bloom in her chest at the child's words, something she hadn't felt since she was young herself. Daniel leaned back, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Hope whispered to him. He looked at Eleanor again. All right, yes. Thank you. Eleanor smiled. Good. I'll arrange everything. As she stood to leave, Hope ran up and wrapped her arms around Eleanor's waist. Ma'am, can we see you again? Eleanor hesitated. Meetings, deadlines, constant travel, her schedule never had room for connections. But looking down at Hope's hopeful eyes, she realized something else needed to change. Yes, Eleanor said softly. You will. Hope beamed, swinging Eleanor's hand happily before letting go. On her way out of the hospital, Eleanor stopped outside the doors and breathed deeply. For the first time in years, the air felt crisp, clean, real. She touched the pink ribbon in her pocket. This little girl, this quiet, brave father, they weren't just people she helped. They were people who reminded her she still had a heart. And for the first time, Eleanor wondered if fate had led her into those woods not to save them, but to save her own humanity.